Welcome and thank you for joining Trinity Security Allies. We're going to let everybody get on and then we'll be ready to start in just a moment.
All right, we're going to get started here in a second. Let you know a little of the ground rules and things that we need you to do for us. If you can, put your questions and answers under the Q&A. That'll help Wendy out. If you do chat, that's kind of one thing that we do see and we do look at, but it's really kind of the side thing that we put. A lot of people talk to each other. Y'all know each other out here, so we kind of let that go. If you have a question, please go underneath the question and answers, the Q&A. All right, this is Jim Howard with Trinity Security Allies. Wendy, my wife, is in the background working with us. And tonight we're really excited because we're going to be talking about Protect My Ministry in reference to children's safety. Now, Sondra Smith, who is with Protect My Ministry, is going to be our guest tonight. And she's going to be talking about things that we kind of take a look at, you know, under Trinity Security Allies. We try to train, but she is the expert. And so we're going to get her to talk a little bit about their ministry and what they do to help churches around the country to protect children. Now, when we look at the Bible, all through the Bible, it talks about the love of the children. If we look in Psalms 127:3, it says, children are a heritage from the Lord. Offsprings are reward for him. Matthew 16:8 says, as anyone causes one of these little ones, those who believe in me, to stumble, it would be better for them to have a large millstone hung around their neck and to be drowned in the depths of the seas. It's very serious stuff here to hurt a child. It is very serious in God's eyes. Now, like I said, with TSA, when we come into a church, one of the first things that we want to look at is where the children's ministry is located and how they have it set up. In the past, we used to have it that people didn't even lock their doors where the children were, or have locks on the doors, but yet would place locks that Fort Knox would be proud of on their where their musical instruments were stored. And I would always ask these safety team members, what's wrong with these pictures? You can turn around and replace the musical instruments with your insurance, but you cannot replace a little child. So we work that is one of our main focuses when we go to churches and talk to them about church safety. A lot of people think it's about active shooter. It's not. We want to make sure our children are safe. Just recent, August 6, 2020, Jeff McMasters from the University of Alberta said that they did research that revealed patterns of sexual abuse in religious settings. And it is very scary because a lot of times these sexual predators will groom the church before they go after the children. So what I want to do, I want to bring up Sondra Smith. She's been at Protect My Ministry since April of 2014. She had worked there previously between 2008 and 2009. She also serves as a lead elementary teacher at New Journey Fellowship in Pinellas Park on Sundays and director on Wednesday. And I'll have to ask her what TNT is. Now that her children have all left the nest, her long-term passion is to continue learning Spanish and one day leave it all behind and serve in an orphanage in South or Central America. And I had to chuckle because she said her favorite movie was Galaxy Quest. And I have to tell you, it's one of mine too. So without any further ado, let me get Sondra, apologize again, up on the screen. There you are.
Hi,
Hey.
so thank you for having me. It's just a pleasure. It's a passion. I enjoy sharing what I can.
Well, tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you get into this? How did you find Protect My Ministry?
A long story. I had been introduced to sales a number of years ago at a software company, and I wanted to make improvements, and I found myself working at a different background check company called First Advantage, one of the largest in the world, great company. They had gone through multiple acquisitions, mergers, and things, and ended up doing massive rounds of layoffs. I made it through the first two, but my whole department was cut in the third round. And then I went almost seamlessly. I found a job in the same industry, but with the company I'm with now, Protect My Ministry, and worked there for about a year. And that's when the 2009 crash happened and people just weren't hiring. So I did something else for a few years, and it's just been wonderful coming back. I enjoy it. I love it. Safety's kind of always been a passion, and so is children's ministry. So it just couldn't be, for me personally, more of a perfect combination of things.
Now, you you were telling me, because you posted this with Faith-Based Security Network,
Mhm.
and you posted that article on that researchers reveal patterns of sexual abuse in religious settings, and you were telling me a little bit about it. Can you kind of go into that and what it was talking about?
Yeah, the folks who really are genuinely hunting children, they're going now to sports leagues, little leagues, and churches, places where children gather. And before they even select a potential victim to groom, they first groom the organization. And on the faith-based, the church side, as you know from different church experiences, there are different styles of worship. You have the stand up and wave the arms, you have the sit demurely with your hands in your lap, and then a whole lot of in between. And what they do, those who are, pursuing this, they will go to multiple churches and fill out the visitor card the first week, kind of watch and see how things go, and then they'll mark their calendar, and they'll go back a few more times, always marking the calendar. They know that churches have, a lot of them, a 6-month rule that you have to be attending over time before you can even serve. So they're literally marking their calendars and keeping track of which churches they've gone to during that time. And they know when to kneel, stand up and say hallelujah, or clap their hands, or whatever that particular church does. And they're grooming the church. When they feel they have acceptance at whichever one first, then they attend there a little bit longer. And inevitably, every church always needs children's workers. And when that announcement comes, then they take the next step. And then from there, they will look for the loner kid, that type of thing. Then they will pick a victim. But first, they groom the church.
I had read an article several years ago when we kind of started talking about protecting the children, and it was an article of where a sexual predator had done just exactly what you're talking about, had groomed the church, and had went to the pastor and said, hey, you're going to hear something about me maybe touching one of the kids. And the pastor interrupted him before he even got finished and said, oh, no, not you, not you. You're too good of a man to be doing something like that. When in actuality, he had been doing it. And because of him grooming the pastor just couldn't believe that it could happen. And this is really scary. So when you see or hear these stories, I mean, what are the things that people should be looking for instead of just the record check that everybody talks about? Oh, all of our people have got, we do record checks on them like once a year or something like that.
Well, that's a great question, and it really does have a couple of other components that we do strongly recommend. All background checks are not alike, so I'll say that right at the outset. But in addition to a good background check, I like to recommend a good reference check. When you have an employment application, one of the questions is of the previous employer, would you hire them back again?
Mm-hmm.
And if somebody is offered to serve in your ministry with kids, I think a great question is to find out where they've served before, call that person and present the same question reworded. If they were to come back to your ministry, would you gladly welcome them back in your children's ministry again? And you're looking for not only a yes, but you're looking for an instant yes, and you're looking for a solid tone. If there's any hesitation on answering, or it's a little, maybe, no.
Mm-hmm.
You want a solid instant? Absolutely. If it's anything short of that, that's a huge red flag that you should pay attention to and maybe move on to a different candidate.
Yeah.
Another thing that I like to recommend is an interview question where you ask an open-ended, why do you want to work with kids? And the answer you're hoping you don't hear is anything about me, why I want to work with kids. I feel fulfilled. It makes me feel complete. It's my calling. It's all about me, me, me. Anybody who's going to give you that, that's also a red flag. I wouldn't let that person near the kids.
Now, you were talking to me today and you said something about that Florida's not even really your state. You're working with 6 other states. So Protect My Ministry is a large organization. I
Yeah.
mean, how big is it? Do you know? I mean, how many states do y'all cover?
Well, we cover the whole U.S. I actually cover half the states
Mhm.
for my particular role. There's different salespeople that do different things. I work with larger churches and non-church ministries in 25 states, also internationally. So we're big. We have, I believe, over 30,000 clients right now,
Wow. Wow.
and including not just faith-based, but also youth sports.
Okay. Do you do daycares or things like that, or is it just
Yes,
strictly? Oh, you
yes.
do those too. Okay.
A lot of homeschool co-ops, pregnancy centers, Christian schools, churches, mission groups.
And what do you see? What's the biggest threat out here right now that y'all are seeing? I mean, there's got to be patterns. You hear. Let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. When you come to the conference, you're also going to meet Alan Wilkett, and I don't know if you've ever met him before, but he worked with Pasco County and he worked with human trafficking. So they had made an arrest of 2 separate people that did not know each other. And so when they were interviewing them, one of the questions that they asked them is, where's your fishing? Where do you go fishing for kids? And of course, the standard answer usually is the internet or a mall or just, places where kids hang out. And they were surprised that these 2 guys said church ministries, because they're finding out that they can get into these these ministries, high school and middle school, and they send young men in to help them out. They're grooming young men to help them, bring young ladies out. And we were just like, okay, that's it. We're going to start watching for these guys because we know who they are. We can see who they are. They don't want to they don't want to work in the small group section. They'll go to where they're doing the singing and praising, like you said, raising their hands and stuff like that. But when they break up, they don't want to participate with the small groups. And so we know exactly what they're trying to do there, meet girls and, but what is some of the things that you're seeing across the country?
Well, one of the things, and it's with Protect My Ministry, we not only do the background screening, we also offer child safety training. It's an online course for the folks at your ministry to be trained in what the signs of grooming behavior, predator behavior, victim behavior are, because there are signs. This stuff doesn't happen in a vacuum. We want everybody trained on what to look for, first of
Sure.
all. Uh, Secondly, it's just no surprise. I think the biggest thing that I see that just upsets me the most is sort of like the glazed over eyes of denial or delusion that, well, we run a background check and we only let 2 people in a room at a time, so everything's fine. And it's not. There's a book that I had recommended, you'll put up later on.
Mm-hmm.
In that particular book, the guy has gone into prisons and interviewed pedophiles, and he says 25% of them brag about molesting a child in a room with 2 other adults present and getting away with it. So there's just so much of it can't happen here because we know everybody. We did a background check, and I talk to people doing a background check in a state that their records for that state don't even report into the package that they're ordering. They don't even know they're ordering the wrong background check. People in Georgia aren't even going to get Georgia records, that kind of thing. And I just, we really want whoever's doing that to make sure they're doing the right check, make sure they're training people, do your interviews, do your references. And then other than that, just be diligent. The other thing is, if you can, stand in the hallway at your church in between services, watch where the lulls are, where people are congregating, where a kid might be in a corner and not seen. Think like a predator. If you wanted to access a kid, what would be your quickest, easiest way to do it? I mean, I hate to say that, but that's really what you need to do to keep your kids safe.
Well, trust me, in law enforcement, they tell, that's one of the tricks is we try to think like the criminal thinks, and then we're hopefully being proactive and not being reactive when we see something like that. So that's good information. Now, your record checks, you were talking about those.
Mhm.
Um, do you mind telling us the cost that you charge for the record checks? Because I know that that's one of the things that some of the churches would like to know.
We have a lot of different packages depending upon the state and what you need and add-ons, et cetera. And then we also have some partner discounts. But you can get a national background check in the $10 or less range. In the $20 or less range, you can get a national with a local court. In Florida, some counties do, some don't report into that database. Right here in our immediate area, Pinellas, Hillsborough, Pasco, I believe they all do report into that database. But some places don't. So you want to make sure you know where your candidate's from. And then if they're from another part of the country, you might or might not need to add an additional court if you wanted to check records from where they're from.
What is the first thing that you think about when somebody comes up and says something to you about children's ministry? Because you were telling me about one earlier that just blows my mind. I mean, you know.
Well, I think the first thing that I think of is a lot of people, particularly Christians, we have this graceful attitude. We want to believe the best in everybody, and we're a little too trusting. And I know at my church, there were parents who would send their kid down the hall to the bathroom, and that was a long, narrow hall, and there was a back door, and there was a homeless population outside, and it used to just drive me nuts. You don't know who's in that bathroom. No. You can't just send your kid there. So I think the main thing is to take the blinders off. You don't have to live in fear, but you have to engage an element of caution. I'm not afraid of people coming in my house, but I lock my door at night. There's things that you can do to reduce the risk. And the other thing is, if you think you can't be fooled, you already are.
Yeah. Well, that you just said two statements. I like the one where you say you can't live in fear, because that's absolutely true. We cannot. Right. And then if you think you can't be fooled, you are, because it surprises you how people trust people. And the next thing you know, they're wishing they hadn't. When we do our training, I always talk about statement analysis, or listening to people when they say something to you, because you need to make sure that you're hearing exactly what they say. And I kind of do this little thing where I walk up to one of the ladies in church and I say, "Do you have a children's ministry?" And of course, they all say yes. And I said, "So what would be your next question that you would ask them?" And, sometimes they just kind of say, I don't know. But I would say, wouldn't you ask them, what are the ages of your children? Oh, do you have children? And they said, yeah, we'd ask that. And if the guy turns around and says, no, I don't have any children, but I love working with them, that to me is a red flag. Please don't
red flag.
Don't let that guy inside,
No.
And so, a lot of it is common sense. A lot of it is paying attention. A lot of it is just listening. I really liked it where you talked about having a recommendation from somebody and calling that person. And if they don't quickly right off the bat say, yes, we're sorry that they left. They were great here. It's been difficult to replace them. Then there is something wrong there. Let me ask you something. And I'm curious, has a company ever thought about tracking these people, or is that more along the lines of law enforcement, especially in churches? Because one of the things that we do is we network. And we had a guy that came into our church and was grooming a 13-year-old, and we found out about it, and we happened to get a copy of his criminal record, and he was a sexual offender, but he really should have been a sexual predator. If he'd have been arrested after Jessica's Law, he would have been a predator. And so the pastor, and God bless my pastor that was there, he's no longer at the church. He said that this guy had kids of his own. And one of the things that he was throwing at the church was that his kids really loved our children's ministry. So this is the reason why he was coming, but yet we caught him grooming this 13-year-old. So, my pastor was like, well, we'll watch him, and we'll take his kids, and won't let him go into the children's ministry. And then we'll take the kids to him after church is over. And I was like, I'm going to want the same treatment. If we're going to do it for one, we're going to do it for all, But I just looked at him and I said, all it is having one time where a child goes into the bathroom, because how parents are. Oh, you're 6 years old. Go to the bathroom. Go ahead. And this guy walking behind them and saying something to them, and then the church finds out that we knew about it, and then it's like you're done. It's going to be a while to overcome that. So I guess my question is, do churches call you after it happens? That's where I was going with that.
I've talked with churches post-incident, and then because we're a background check company, there's limited what we can do with information that we do obtain.
I understand that.
I will say that we did identify a guy who was on one state's sex offender registry. He had moved to another state, not registered as required. He filled out apps to serve with 2 different churches the same week with children's ministries, both of our customers. And it kind of got flagged on our end. Hey, why are we getting the same sex offender paying twice for 2 different churches the same day? So we did call those churches. They were our customers, and they did contact the sheriff. The guy was rearrested. So, that was helpful. But other than that, it is a privilege to talk with churches post-incident. The biggest thing that happens post-incident, besides the trauma to the child and their family, is you can pretty much immediately expect a 50% church split overnight.
Oh, wow.
That's going to happen.
That's important to know, because first off, like you said, we need to take this as serious as possible,
right? Because
we know that it's out here. We read about it almost every other day. It seems like we have a Google alert that tells us,
right.
When these incidents happen, and it's like every other day we're seeing another one in another church where a camp counselor, youth minister, or somebody like that has done something like this. And it's just like, I'll give you one that just happened recently, and I was kind of upset about it because it was a 60-year-old drummer sexually assaulted a juvenile around, I think it was 13 years old. And in my mind, I was trying to figure out, what was this 60-year-old drummer doing around that 13-year-old little girl? How did, apparently he had talked to her for some time and had got her to agree to go meet him at like his house or some other place like that. How did it get that far?
I can tell you how it gets that far.
Please.
There was an incident where a known sex offender had attended a church. I forgot where. It's been several years. And the pastor knew that this man was an offender, and he wanted to teach Bible study. And the pastor made the grave mistake of elevating him to teach the adult Bible study class with the justification that he's not around kids or youth. That's the mistake, because when you elevate them to that role, even if they're not serving with kids, there's this perception of trust. Mm-hmm. And the inevitable did happen with a child of one of the people in the class. And it may or may not happen on church property, but the trust took place there. And, maybe they see him at the mall or make arrangements to meet him at a movie. I don't know, it happens. Mm-hmm. But you just don't want to elevate people in that type of situation to any position of trust, even including drummer.
Well, and let's be perfectly clear here, and let's kind of put this out here. We're all sinners, and God
right.
forgives all of us. And I know of a guy at our church that was charged with a I don't even know. He's listed as a sexual offender. Let me put it that way. Because when you go and look at the charge, it's almost something like, in some states, if you buy a juvenile beer, they'll put you under a sexual offender. This was how it was back then. And I think it was one of those things contributing to the delinquency of a minor instead of really, we don't know what happened. We just know that that's the charge. He came to the church. He threw himself on the mercy of the church. He said, look, I've done this. Here's my record, all these things like this. Now, this happened back in probably like 1988. And it's been all these years, and he's never been in any trouble. He's a respected businessman. If you were to sit with him in a Bible class, you would never know that that's something that had happened to him. But yet, I know that there's still that stigma. 90% of the church doesn't even know about it. But yet, because of our position in the church, we do know about it. But like I said, when somebody told me it, I was like, you can't be talking about this guy because he's in one of my classes. But they told him what he could and could not do. They did not elevate him, like you said. He did things he came in and would sweep a floor just to help out. He would come in and vacuum just to do things. But we have to be aware of what's going on. We cannot let, like you said, elevate. Now, could he lead a Bible group? It's been so long, he probably could, and nobody would think anything about it. But I do like what you're saying, especially if it's just recently happened. That's the thing.
That and the age of the offender. What somebody did at 17 is different from what they do at 45.
Well, good point there. I'm glad you said that. Yeah.
So, youthful offenders, their brain's not developed. Maybe you can give them a chance, a number of years of having a clean slate, whatever. But somebody who molests kids after the age of 35 or 45, their brain's developed. There's no excuse. And that's another thing that I think of is somebody's reaction. You said this guy was humble. He'd sweep the floors. He'd do everything. As a follower of Christ, I know I'm a broken person. I know I've got flaws. And I know there's some ways that I can and can't serve due to whatever, either limitations of myself or the needs of my church, but not getting an attitude about it. I serve where I can.
Yeah.
When somebody starts to have an attitude, no, I have to do it this way, that's telling that the heart is not humble, and therefore there's another agenda.
Yeah. That's an excellent point, because I talk about this with safety team members. When people come, a lot of the churches have parking. Well, parking is really kind of a part of safety, because we're looking at people as they're coming in. So when a new person comes to me and has no law enforcement experience or military experience, I tell them one of the first things I want them to do is serve somewhere else. Now, they can be a greeter, an usher. Hey, if they're married and have kids and a clean record and want to work, I like guys that work in children's ministry, because I know they have patience, after dealing with kids for so many years, that they have to have some patience there. But I tell them that they have to do something else. And it surprises you how many look at you and go, well, I don't want to do anything else. I want to do this, and this is it. And I'm thinking, then you don't want to humble yourself.
And they're not a team member. You don't want them on your team. Right?
Yeah. Even Christ washed feet, of his disciples, how humbling is that? So that's a good point, that making sure that the people that you're dealing with are humble.
Right.
So tell us how we would get in touch with you.
So protectmyministry.com is our website. Go there, check it out. There's places to leave your info, and one of the reps will get back with you. It won't be me if you're in Florida. It's not one of my states. But somebody will get back with you and help you figure out if you're doing the right background check for your state, if you need training. There's just a lot of different things that we can help you with.
All right. And you wanted me to talk, well, I'm going to turn it over to you. Tell me about the book you wanted us to show, and I'm going to pull this book up so people can see it.
Okay. It's available on Amazon in paperback. I strongly recommend it. The guy has gone out in law enforcement and interviewed pedophiles, and he has a lot to say of what they told him about how they get around church's rules. And it's very telling. So get the book, read it, just do it.
All right. Hang on. Let me get the book up. I'm a little slow here, so. All right. Okay, so tell us about the book. There we go.
That's the one. Yep, it's short. It talks about background screening. It talks about reference checks. It talks about the fact that, the 2-person rule is a good start, but it's not good enough. And just kind of the way that these people think. And if you have to be smarter than they are. You have to know how they think and what they're looking for so that you can guard against it.
All right. So go out. If you work in a children's ministry, somebody that does work in a children's ministry, grab a screenshot of this right here. On Guard, Preventing and Responding to Child Abuse at Church. Deepak Raju. I probably tore that up, but I went out and looked, and he is a member of a large church and helps out with the children's ministry. He seems very legit, and when you look at his classification and what he has done. So I would highly recommend this. And of course, Sondra recommends it also. So good. Now let's get to the questions. Any questions out there, Wendy?
We do have some questions. There are many levels of background checks. What level do you recommend for, I guess, I'm not sure which state James Shoemaker, I don't remember which state he's in.
He's in Florida.
He's in Florida, okay.
You want a background check that's going to run a social security number trace, pull a list of other names they have used, run all of those names on a multi-state criminal database and a nationwide sex offender check. And if you're in a state that reports into that multi-database, that's great. And if your candidate is from a state that reports into it, that's great. If not, you should add either a county or statewide, or more counties or statewide, if depending on where they're from.
And what would that normally run somebody to do something that extensive?
Just the nationwide with one court, like I said, is somewhere in the 20 zone. It could be
Okay.
less, it could be more if that court has add-on fees. And then again, if you have to add other courts, it would just be an additional charge, somewhere $8 to $10 per add-on court if you had to do more than one court.
Mhm.
So another question that he had, Sandra, is if there are children that are so what background check level for church children workers? So
The
I don't
same
know.
thing that I just described. Now, if somebody's counting money at the church, you're going to want to do a federal court check and a credit check. But just for the church volunteers, you want to do the criminal package that I just described, and then reference checks and interviews. That combination is a really good start. If they're driving, you would want to do a driving history. Your leadership roles, you should also do a social media check. People aren't always who they present themselves to be. And we can look for racist, violence, dangerous drug activity on social media. It's just amazing to me. I've laughed and said some 14-year-old kid in Poland is probably doing this. I don't know who does it, but somebody is checking social media and they're finding things. And in that case, a screenshot is taken, provided to the church. We don't interpret it. We'll just find and give it to you. So your leadership roles, not just your volunteers, your leadership, your new pastoral candidates, that type of thing, we do recommend that.
Well, so you also do social media checks for churches then? Oh, okay, that's interesting, because I would think the church would do that themselves. I know I do. When somebody comes and wants to be on the safety team, one of the first things I do is go and look at his Facebook page or Twitter and see what, pictures he's showing. If he's running around all the time with alcohol in his hand and hanging out at the bars, he's not really a candidate that I want to have on the safety team. So
if he's an employee of the church, there's a EEOC violation if the church does that.
Is that right?
Yes, it needs to be done by a third party.
Well, I'm a third party, so.
I don't know how it works for volunteers, but for
Yeah.
employees,
Yeah.
the church should not do it.
Oh, wow. That's interesting. I did not. That's interesting.
So
I
we
learned something
recommend
tonight.
that for your pastoral candidates. You can't have a lead pastor who's, got, like you said, horrible things on their social media. And it's
Yeah.
not just Facebook and Instagram. They look at all kinds of things.
Yeah. Anybody else, Wendy?
Yes. So my church has a lot of minors who volunteer in children's ministry. Would you suggest a check for them also, or what suggestions would you have for minors who serve?
That's a great question. There's only a couple states that report juvie records, so there's almost no point in running them. Florida is not a state that reports juvenile records if your applicant is asking that from Florida. I believe Texas, maybe Washington, they report juvenile records. But all 50 states will try some juveniles as adults. That does happen. So if somebody's applying to serve at your church and they're 16 and they've done something so heinous they're tried as an adult, you'll probably know it and they're not applying to serve at your church. So really, there's not much point in running a background check on somebody under 18 for the most part. So the best thing you want to do is to talk with their parents, their youth leaders, this type of thing, and get some good references and, talk to them a little bit, make sure they're supervised, and also make sure they take the training. Make sure they know what to look for. Young people are impressionable even at that age. Maybe they didn't come in there to abuse kids, but temptation and hormones are just kind of crazy at that age. And if they know what to look for, they'll be more careful not to cross over that line. So we definitely strongly urge the training as well.
Okay.
Good stuff.
Do we have any other questions out there?
Anything you want to say? Anything you want to add? Anything you want to kind of?
Just continue to serve your kids. Do what you can. Try to think like a predator. Don't get afraid. Just make sure you're doing the right check for your area. Ask the right interview questions, and just keep your eyes and ears open. If anything looks off to you, smells funny, your radar's going off, you're getting a gut check, pay attention to that. Don't discount it. If you're getting a gut check about something, follow your radar on that. That's
Anybody? Go ahead, Wendy.
We have a couple more. So all children's ministry volunteers go through a training with Ministry Safe. What's your opinion of that? And Any suggestions on what training to use?
Ministry Safe does a great job. I got no complaints about Ministry Safe. The competitor to ours, their quality background check, they do quality training. They do have a great program. If you're using Ministry Safe, just use all their components. Should be good.
Okay, and we have another question. What training do you recommend?
There's a lot of types of training. Protect My Ministry and gets engaged with the predator awareness and grooming. There are other types of training you can have as well. First aid. There's all kinds of things that you can talk about. There's children with special needs, different ways to engage with them. There's also emergency training, what to do in a fire drill, these kinds of things. I don't suggest active shooter training for your kids at church. There's no reason to scare the kids like that. That's just not.
We don't either. We don't either. So.
But anyway, so where I'm coming from, it's just main thing is to train everybody what to look for. And I'm kind of the opinion that you don't just train the children's workers. I think the ushers, the parking lot attendants,
Thank you.
cafe workers, everybody needs to know the signs of predatory behavior because it does not happen in a vacuum. It starts in the parking lot, happens in the hallway. People see things, and I want people to know and recognize what they're seeing and not write it off. Oh, he's just a little quirky. No, I want you to know what you're seeing and recognize it when you see it.
He's just a nice man.
Yeah, right.
Never, like we've been talking about this all the way through this. They groom the church first. So that is the scary part about it. When it happens, a lot of people are standing around going, I told you that we had a substitute teacher and he was a preacher at a church and worked with kids all the time. And when it came up that he was a sexual predator, it took everybody by surprise. I mean, we were floored. So, now, and that brings up an interesting question I want to ask you. Once it's happened, do y'all have any maybe resources that people could reach out to you, like you said, after it happens, post, that you could connect them with to help those families, just not, like resources to where, you know what I'm saying?
My ministry does not have legal resources on staff, but we have partnered with the Alliance Defending Freedom, and there are legal people on team there that you can talk with. Yeah. There's also great resources. The first thing you should do, obviously, is be upfront, report it to the police, hold nothing back. Also, you need to report it to your insurance company immediately, like within 24 hours. That's extremely important. And then, hold a meeting and be open with parents and people that are coming. You're still going to have a church split. You need to expect that. And then there's a period of healing that takes place afterwards. Obviously, the best thing is prevention. And the most prevention you can do won't 100% eliminate it. It can still happen, but you can reduce the risk.
And that's that's the biggest thing right there, is to reduce the risk.
Right.
Because we live in a fallen world. Right. That's the thing.
So we have another question from John Jacobson. He's going to actually be bringing a bunch of people up from Port Charlotte to see us, Sondra.
Awesome.
They're bringing up a huge crew. Do you screen men and women alike, or do you have a higher alert for male volunteers in children's ministry?
So when we run a record search, we're pulling records that are, or not pulling records that aren't in the courthouse. So when we pull records from Pinellas County gives us what they give us. We don't change our court pulls based upon the gender of the applicant. We pull it, we recommend pulling it based upon where your candidate has been.
Okay.
And just take whatever they give us.
Okay. He also says, thank you for the book recommendation. It's already in his Amazon cart.
Well, that's kind of just, I want to go on that question for a second, because we have seen women now involved in the sexual predator portion because they work with their husbands or boyfriends or girlfriends to help them get victims. So
yes, they do.
I think it's one of these things of, we don't distinguish between who gets checked. If you're working in the ministry, you get checked. So, like I said, I have seen it in my work of where the woman is just as guilty or just as involved as a man is. So,
yes, statistically, it's more male involvement, but it's not zero female involvement.
It's
absolutely. So again, the right check, the references, the interview, and your gut check. if you're getting the creepy vibes about something, trust it. It's there for a reason.
I agree. Anybody else, dear?
We do not have any more questions.
Okay.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to the conference in a few weeks. So cool.
Oh, hold on. We have another question.
Okay.
What type of red flag should I look from females in an interview? Sorry if you've already addressed this.
Okay, so the main things in an interview are an open-ended, why do you want to serve with kids? And you want to, the red flag is if it's this person needs to be around kids so they feel fulfilled. It's all about me, so I can, I feel complete when that kind of stuff is just scary. And then the other thing on your references is discrepancies, just like on employment. They said they served there for the last 7 months, but when you call, they said they only served there for a month and they asked them to quit. You want to check those references. Children have been molested at churches that would not have been molested if the churches had done that simple step. So you're looking for similar, people don't remember the exact dates. I don't remember exactly what date, week, month I started, whatever, that's fine. But if they say they've served there 7 years and the person comes back and says it was 3 months, that is a huge red flag.
Yeah, that's kind of like when we're talking about the statement analysis, just when you start talking to somebody, you say, so did you go to another church? Oh yeah, I went to this church for years. Well, where'd you go? And they can't remember the name.
Don't know the pastor's name.
They don't know the pastor's name. Right. Yeah. Oh, the lead pastor there is, and they can't tell you. Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
So, good stuff, Sondra. I apologize for that. I keep doing that. That's long day. Anyway, back to where we are. Once again, where can we find you?
protectmyministry.com. There's info forms on there for you to leave your information, and a rep for your area will give you a call.
And you're all over the country. So
all over the country and even internationally.
And the reason why I say that is because I put this out on FBSN.
Mm-hmm.
So I do know that every once in a while we get people from other states that come on this. So it's nice to know. And like I said, how did you find out about SBSN? I'm just curious.
So I had heard about the San Diego National Church Safety and Security Conference a few years ago. And one of the things Protect My Ministry does is we participate in industry-related events. And I had brought that one up. And while I'm not the event attendee person on staff, I requested to attend that. I just really wanted to go. California is one of my states, and I wanted to go to that event. And it was just wonderful. I loved it. I heard Carl Chen speak. I got his book, Evil Invade Sanctuary. I heard about FBSN. I went back and promptly joined. It was kind of fun getting my own background check done. Like, I don't know what's in my history. I couldn't work here if I had any problem with my background. But you may not know if you're on this from outside of FBSN, but we have to pass a background check to join the group.
Right.
And so it's kind of fun. I passed my FBI check. And I enjoy the information from it. A lot of the focus is on other elements of church safety, but this is one of those elements.
Right. Well, like I said, I really appreciate you being out there also, because I saw you posted the thing on Tampa, the Catholic church that was torched.
They caught the guy, by the way. I saw
they did.
They did.
Well, I'm glad you told me that, because that's one of the things we do a church safety networking group. Mm-hmm. And we're going to Venice tomorrow night. And that's one of the things that I talk about. So I will look that up. I'm for sure that tattoo on his arm did help them identify him, so, but I don't know if you noticed that there was a tattoo on his arm in the video.
I think I saw on the WFLA news tonight that they caught him shoplifting or something. They connected the dots somehow, whatever.
Well, the shooting that happened out in California, that person was in jail for a carjacking, and they started putting things together, like you said. So,
one quick thing before we go. There's a lot of folks that say we just want to do a sex offender check. I just want to throw it out there real quick. It's not a Florida thing. It's all 50 states. Per law enforcement, only about half of the known sex offenders ever make the registry. You were talking a moment ago about predator versus offender. It doesn't matter. You need to count them all as predators, because they plead down. If some of them that are on there as offenders are predators, and only half of them make the list, there's many reasons for that. So if there's, I don't know, however many 100,000 sexual offenders and predators on the registry now. In your mind, you need to double it. So that's another reason why you need to make sure you're also checking local records, because they may have pled down to child abuse or domestic or something else. These sex offenders are never only guilty of one charge.
Oh, no.
So,
No.
right.
I investigated a guy down here in Bel Air that was videotaping these girls, and it was very scary. And the mother of one of the children was allowing this to happen. And he sat down one night and got him to say things that were pornographic. And so that's what we went for, that one little charge. And so it was using juveniles in the production of pornographic material.
Right.
Well, it doesn't fit underneath the sex offender code. So we couldn't, that's what I wanted to do with him, was to get him under that register, right, so that now we could, you know, he would always be there. He pled guilty to the charge, but if you don't do the record check, like you're talking about, the NCIC check, FCIC check, and the things like that, you might not find him. But
right,
so disappointed when I found that out after, like I said, when we got the conviction, I was like, yeah, now he's going to be out. No, he's not. So, and I know, like you said, he's doing it somewhere else now. He's doing it somewhere else. He's just being more cautious. So it's scary out there. It really is. You cannot trust. Anyway, I'm going to get off on my soapbox, because I just love the way you just said that, because you're absolutely right, is that they're going to do it again.
They are.
We've seen it over and over and over again. So, Wendy, I see we got another question.
Actually, it wasn't John Jacobson. It was Matt Marion, by the way. He's with the children's pastor at John's church. He forwarded the email. So welcome, Matt. So thanks for joining us.
Was that it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I look forward to seeing everybody in a few weeks. Thank you.
Sondra, thank you so much for coming out. I really appreciate it. We want to make sure that the people that we're servicing, you know, the ones that we're working at, have a great resource that they can reach out to, especially in such an important thing like this. This is near and dear to Wendy and I. I mean, we have two girls. This is something that we worry about all the time. If I had two boys, I'm not going to say that, but it worries us all the time. I mean, we think about it all the time. So to hear the things that you said are just very informative, and it helps us be more alert and be proactive instead of being reactive.
Right. Thank you for having me.
Well, we'll see you in a couple of weeks. So
right.
Take care now.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
All right, folks, I'm going to switch over to the screen again, and we're going to talk about some of the other stuff that we got coming up. Oop, wrong one. Hang on. I'm so excited about the conversation that we had there. It was great. Such good news, such good information. Once again, that's the book On Guard that she was talking about, preventing and responding to child abuse in the church. Listen, we're really excited that we got a chance to have her here. We're going to tell you about some of our free resources that we have that we use all the time. Trinity Security Allies, we have a church safety networking group, and we also do Facebook Live at 8 o'clock. We are going to be in Venice tomorrow night. I'm sorry I don't have the address with me right now, but go to our website and it will be there. You can look it up. We're going down there to kick it back off. I mean, we're starting to come back out to the churches. We were in Pasco County the other night and had a good group show up. So please, if you can, pull it up on our website. If you're out near the Venice area, come on out. We do these free resources. You can go and find us on YouTube. This will be on YouTube just for a little while. Then we'll put it over on the paved side, but you can see it for a little bit, because I know a lot of people might not be able to make it tonight and really want to hear about this. And so let them know about it so that they can see it. It should be out there in a couple of days. We also have our free downloads, our PDFs, our ebooks, putting together a safety plan, developing a safety team, carrying weapons in the church, and Sunday morning what to look for. If you are thinking about putting together a safety team, this is what you need to pull down just to get started. It'll give you a little bit of an idea, and then you can contact us and ask us how else we can help you. We're having our 4th annual, can you believe it, 4th annual Church Safety and Liability Conference. It's going to be October the 17th at 1540 Little Road, Generations Christian Church. There will be breakfast, and registration starts at 7:30. At 8 o'clock, we are going to get started because we have a lot of speakers, and we want you to get as much as you can for paying for coming, which is $40 right now. $40. We're going to extend it for another week, and then after that, it goes up. You get breakfast, lunch, and snacks. You can't go anywhere and hear the caliber of people that we're going to have. We are really excited about everybody that's on this list. We've already talked to a few of them online so that you've had a chance to kind of hear something about them, but they haven't told you half the stuff that they're going to present to you when you come to the conference. So you got to come out here. You got to come out here, folks, and fellowship with us, and we're really looking forward to it. Oh, and let me just say this also. We're running out of seats. So if you want to come, you better register now because we're starting to get really close to where, you know, we're not going to have enough chairs. So come on out. Come on out. Okay. Ways to support us. Prayer, membership. It's $125 a month, or if you pay for the year, it's $1,200. I had a guy that I told him what we do, the training that we do, and that gets you training. That also gets you 5 seats to our conference. And he looked at me and said, "How are y'all still in business?" Because he thought the price was so low. Listen, we're just trying to get the information out here. This is our ministry. This is our calling. You're going to see that we do as much as we possibly can for you and for the churches. So it's not a lot of money, $100 a month. Online membership for individuals is $25 a month. Or I'm going to push it out for one more month, $20 a month through October. In this, you get the weekly online training, access to video training library, and 1 ticket to the church safety conference. Plus also we do a la carte training. If you have something you want us to try to do for your church, come on and let us know. And we're also looking for donations. It's getting that time of year where people are going to start looking for 501c3s, charities that they can donate to. We're one. Last but not least, USCCA. Cannot say this enough. In this time, this date and time, because of the things that are going on out here, you need some sort of protection if you are carrying. The USCCA provides top-notch education, training, and self-defense legal protection for all responsibly armed Americans. Join now to gain true peace of mind with the USCCA legal and financial protection program. You need to be looking at this, like I said, if you're going to carry. Even if you're not carrying, I found out that they will protect you if you have to use any type of force, as long as it's legal force. Please understand this, to protect yourself or your family. And in this crazy time, who knows what you might have to use. I want to thank you for coming out tonight. I really you bless us every time that you're out here with us. I want you to be safe out here, be blessed, and we will not be here next week. I'm going to be up in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, getting ready to teach up there. So if you're in the neighborhood, please come on out. Come down and see us. Come down and talk to us. Introduce yourself. Let me know who you are and where you're from. Be blessed out there. Be safe. God bless this country. Thank you very much. Have a good night.